And now, the survival show that survived the great Twinkie famine of 2010. Howdy, and welcome back to In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast, episode 133. In this episode, Alana Barfield returns. She's going to share her lessons from living naked in the wilderness for 40 days. And she lets us in on nature's perfect toilet paper secret. I'm your host, Aaron, and you are back in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. Miss Alana Barfield, welcome back to In the Rabbit Hole.
Thank you.
Not that you're not around on a regular basis, but it's great to have you back on the show.
Really glad to be back.
What have you gone and done now, madam?
Yeah, I don't learn lessons. Like, apparently I'll try anything once or twice.
Twice to make sure you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for much more extended stretches. So, yeah.
Love it. One quick thing before we get started today. If you took the summer off and haven't heard, we've launched the membership program with some great bonuses and benefits. Support the ITRH mission by becoming a member of the Roving Horde Armada. For as little as $2.50 a month, members help keep the show going. Visit ITRH for more details and member benefits today. Now back to you, Alana. So what is this extended stretch we're talking about here? So I guess, let's back up here for people that, so you are on Naked and Afraid.
Yes.
And you were the only person, if memory serves me right, to have actually finished the Naked and Afraid challenge all by your lonesome.
The first.
Oh,
there were
there
subsequent solo finishers after me, but I was the Neil Armstrong of solo finishing.
High five across the desk. There we go. So now I understand they upped the ante this time.
Yes. Starving and almost dying for 3 weeks is not enough for some people and some viewers, so they amped it up, threw some steroids in the mix, and they created a 40-day challenge with the same pretense: naked, strangers, and lots of misery. And Of course, I couldn't resist.
Well, no, I mean, who doesn't want to spend 40 days naked in the woods with a bunch of strangers?
Absolutely. It was like a party.
Without alcohol or drugs. So,
yeah.
I mean, really, wow, you are a glutton for punishment, ma'am.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So, I mean, did they have to talk you into this, or were you just like, sure, it sounds like a party?
It did take a couple nights of sleeping on it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't so much the survival part again, because I really do love that. I love just kind of going out and seeing what I'm made of and testing my skills and just my limits of pain and suffering, basically. But what had me worried was the fact that it was going to be all these other people and also the location. Because when I found out it was in Colombia, that was probably my number one concern, is that with everything going on over there, it's like drug running and kidnapping and all this sort of thing. And maybe I watched too much American news, but it just seemed like a whole lot of bad.
And I hear there's a high price for gingers.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not cheap, so I was a little concerned. But fortunately, nothing happened, and we were reassured that utmost security measures would be taken, and everything was fine, at least as far as I knew. So there was no incident there. But that was a big concern, and that was probably the biggest thing that would have kept me from going, is just the political stuff and FARC and everything going on down there.
Craziness.
Yeah.
So you had to deal with that, at least in the back of your mind while you were down there. So I guess let's back up. What did you feel walking into the situation last time, the first time you did it?
The first time, it was just a lot of mostly just curiosity. And I didn't know what I was getting into as far as the TV side of things and really what it was all going to entail. It was just a whole lot of, let's see what happens. I knew it was going to be a learning experience. This time, though, having been through a taste of it, it was a completely different ball game. Like, I didn't go into it like, oh, this is going to be a learning experience and this is going to be interesting. This is totally brand new. It was a little bit old hat just because of the way it was set up. I mean, there's going to be camera crew around and you're going to have to get naked in front of people, and all that stuff was really not that interesting anymore. But I knew it was going to be still a learning experience, but more of a social dynamic kind of thing, which, just in my personal life and own interests and things like that, I tend to do things mostly alone. I mean, I'm an only child, grew up alone, and always, learned everything that I know outdoors wise alone. So that was never, I guess, an opportunity. Yeah, I was kind of dreading it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Just the other people, that was your biggest?
I just generally I don't leave the house a whole lot unless I have to, things like that. Just generally other people's survival situation is not fun for me.
You're such a loner, such a hermit. You're just sitting around waiting for the zombie apocalypse.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. I can appreciate that as someone in a similar situation. From an emotional standpoint, not to get all Dr. Phil with you, but from an emotional standpoint, besides the apprehension about the other people, going into it this time, you had a much better understanding of what it was really going to be like, and I guess how hard it was going to be, and hearing how much longer they had extended this challenge by. Did that give you cause for concern? Or, I mean, did you have apprehension about it? Were you nervous at all? Or were you just like, I am a ginger and I'm here to conquer? I mean, what was going through your head?
Oh, yeah, no, I was completely nervous. I mean, anybody that would go and do something like this and say they're not nervous is full of crap. Mm-hmm. Because even if you're not worried about, surviving or getting bitten by a snake or what have you, you're leaving your home and your normal life, like your job, and for a month and a half, at least. That was actually making everything a lot more stressful than even like, what kind of shelter am I going to build and what am I going to eat? It was, did I get all my bills set to auto pay? And I need to do my taxes before I go because I'm going to miss tax season, and just little stuff like that was really stressful, which in a real life situation, that's not really going to be the case. I mean,
right.
You're not going to have to like prepare that sort of thing for no contact and kind of going off grid and things like that. But it did make for a really distracting situation because, when you're out in the wild, you're trying to forage and find water. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, did I leave the oven on before I left? And things like that. So it was just such a weird situation that would never happen in real life. You're not going to have those two things going on simultaneously.
Yeah. Because, presumably if you're out naked in the woods at that point, you don't really care anymore if you left.
Like
you're
not
the grid has gone down and you're not going back home.
Yeah.
So you're not having to worry about, trying to trap a weasel or platypus or something while worrying about whether or not you left the oven on at home.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And I guess there are other things that it's so hard because I know some of what's going on. And it's hard for me because I know there's stuff you can't answer yet since the show is ongoing right now.
Yeah.
So that's tricky for me.
Certain things are off limits.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back to them with a later show or something. Of course, next time I won't announce you being on the show without having first told you like I did this time.
That was fun.
You're listening to it going, what the hell is he talking about? No,
I'm glad I was listening to the show, though. I would have had no
Well,
idea.
I mean, I was going to email you, and it was funny. I think it was just, I had a Jason moment there for a minute and miscommunicated. And I think I just had so much going on getting prepared for this season that we talked about it and then it slipped my mind to actually confirm it with you. And it was funny because I've been so diligent about confirming so many other interviews and doing all this stuff. And I guess just because we're friends, I was like, oh yeah, we talked about it, so it's all good. So I pulled a Jason.
That's all right.
You'll forgive me. I appreciate that. That's swell. What were the big takeaways this time? Because I know you learned a lot about yourself last time.
Yeah.
What were your big takeaways this time that you could actually share with us?
I think my big takeaways this time is it really just made me want to be a better prepper. Because I really learned that I don't want to ever have to be in that situation, like for real, with nothing.
Oh, that's interesting.
And even though it's a challenge and I don't want to call it a game, but it is definitely a very removed situation from anything that would likely happen under normal circumstances. I mean, because you always have the option to quit and things like that, where in real life you're pretty much
right. You're committed to the situation. Yeah.
So there is that certain kind of mental safety net. Yeah, experiencing the things I experienced and having to plan for a 40-day stretch versus, in a 21-day situation, you're just kind of living day by day. I mean, you want to anticipate your future needs, but basically you're satisfying immediate needs. If you're thirsty, drink water. You're hungry, get something to eat. And in 21 days, unless you dehydrate, you're not going to be in that bad of shape at the end. But in 40 days, you have to plan. Like you have to just anticipate what's going to happen in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks down the road. So I kind of went into, I guess, kind of the same mode that I go into just at home in normal life, like saving and stowing away for a rainy day, things like that, and kind of what I base my sort of prep philosophy on. And within the first week of being there, knowing that I was going to be meeting up with more and more people, resources were going to be more and more scarce, I started like drying fruit, roasting nuts, and storing things for later. So it really drove home that, yeah, this is the way to go. It's not all about, like, yeah, it's great to have those skills to use, in an immediate situation, but it really drove home to me that most comfortable way to go is to be prepared. And whether it's an urban situation or like out in the wilderness, just plan ahead, because that was key for me. That really made a huge difference.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's funny that it makes sense. It's interesting that drove home further for you the importance of preparedness.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't ever want to do this.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things I did when I got home and kind of caught up on all my 5,000 emails that I missed and all that stuff. I like redid like my food storage and just tweaked all the things that I'm like currently doing.
So did it change your focus on the things you're currently doing?
It did, actually.
How so?
Yeah. I'm a lot more focused on food now, maybe because I'm so hungry. But I've slowed down a little bit on like ammo and silver and things like that. And I'm like, rice, and water purification and stuff like that. Like I've really just gone back to like the basics of living and stuff. Of course, it's portable, but that's a whole.
Right. I think that's interesting. And I think that what's funny is that triggered that for you.
Yeah.
And I think I'd been going through a similar experience where I'd started to get not away from the tactical stuff, but really putting the tactical stuff on the back burner. Like, I have enough freaking bullets. I have enough freaking guns. I don't need one more. Well, I mean, I always want one more, or ogling the latest night vision goggles.
Yeah,
or something
like I have
crazy
not
like that,
touched a piece of gear since I've come back. It's all been about just
food and water. See, and I think that's important. And I think that's the thing that in a lot of ways, no matter how far along we get in preparedness, it's easy to get sucked into the tactical trap.
Yeah, because that's the fun stuff.
It's the fun stuff. Yeah, and it's
toys.
It makes loud noises and it goes boom, and you can go off and have fun with it. Whereas, say, dehydrated fruit is just not that exciting.
Yeah,
that's really quite interesting that it triggered that mindset for you. So, aside from the mindset, what were there skills that you picked up this time doing it? Were there skills that came into play more this time?
Actually, yeah, hunting and fishing came more into play this time around. And I'm sure that was just kind of location based. And plus, if you're supporting one person versus being in a group of, half a dozen, 10 people, a dozen people, it changes things.
How so?
Well, when you're by yourself, you really only have to worry about yourself. Like eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty, sleep when you're tired. But when you're working with other people, unless you want to be exiled from the group or something, you have to play along with things. And maybe you're not hungry right now, but somebody else is. And like, okay, I'll go help you hunt, things like that. You have to make certain sacrifices and compromises just for the well-being of the whole group. And you have to take one for the team. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I guess the stability and the overall mood and happiness of the group becomes more of a priority than your own immediate needs.
Is that purely out of fear of exile?
It's not really purely out of fear of exile. Just me personally, I would just rather have just like a happy drama-free day than have to argue over some kind of meaningless thing with somebody else. I guess it's just like if you're in a relationship, sometimes you'll just bite your tongue even when you know you're right, just for the sake of just like having a nice dinner or whatever.
Just so the other person will shut the hell up. We can be direct about it. Yeah.
Stuff like that. That happens a lot more. When if you're by yourself, who cares? You can do what you want. But with other people, sometimes just maintaining the peace is more important than I think we should eat this thing and not this thing, or just, something trivial at the end of the day. You have to really look at the overall just temperature of things versus strictly satisfying needs.
So how many people are actually in this time?
It's 12 people.
It's a lot of personalities to deal with.
It is a whole lot of personality. Fortunately, not everybody was all together.
Like mentally or?
Well, there are people that are not all together mentally. But it didn't start out as a group of 12. Mm-hmm. That kind of happens later. Everyone kind of meets up eventually. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that overwhelming at first. It was kind of smaller groups of kind of as defined people, just smaller bites that built up to the big group, which was really strange. It was like being this weird commune.
Hippie naked commune.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So how, because like the first time you did it, you were just doing it with one other person.
Right.
And so it was just one person. Did you find it harder or easier with a group of 12 versus one? Mm-hmm. I remember you and the guy you were on with the first time didn't exactly get along very well.
Yeah.
It seemed like not really very many of the women got along, with the exception of Manu and Russell. Yeah, they actually they bonded really well.
Together really well.
I think everyone wanted to strangle the blonde chick, even though the viewers wanted to strangle the blonde chick whose name I can't remember.
Yeah.
But did you find was it better or worse?
It really was better. At first, I thought it was going to be a lot worse being with a bunch of other people because it's more personalities, more people to clash with. But it really does make things easier. Mm-hmm. And I really never thought I would admit that. But after experiencing it, once you get the initial kinks worked out and kind of establish that pecking order and establish who's who and what's what, and you kind of have a routine, it really does get a lot easier. More hands, you can get more stuff done just on a practical level. And plus, having been alone for a week and a half versus like never being alone in this situation, even though there were times when it's kind of nice to have your personal space, you do stay a lot more mentally stable if you have people to talk to, especially people who are in the same situation as you. Can like gripe and bitch and moan together, and then go on with your day and be okay and not feel like you're losing your mind.
That's interesting. So you actually get a chance to vent to a person and not a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Trees are really good listeners.
They are. They're great listeners, but
they don't ever talk back. And sometimes you want that, that sounding board to say, no, it's okay. You're not crazy. It really does suck.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
or that guy really is an asshole.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of nice being able to talk shit about other people when you needed to.
Oh, Naked and Afraid, the high school episode.
Yeah, unfortunately, you get a big group of people together with very strong personalities. There is going to be some of that. Despite
Preppers,
your best
survivalists with strong personalities.
I know, like
who would have thought that? That's an interesting dynamic. And I mean, it's interesting, not that it doesn't make sense logically, but I think in a lot of ways it does go against the grain of what a lot of us would think, that a bigger group would be harder to deal with than a much smaller group.
It's all about resources, though. Like when resources were available, it was smooth sailing and kumbaya, and it was great. But when the resources were kind of waning a little bit and people were getting a little hungrier, a little more testy, that's when the stupid decisions would be made and there would be fights and things like that. So it is all very dependent on resources, I find. And I guess there are limits to the size of groups, I think, too. Because when it's a really small group, it's not so bad. When everybody's together it's like how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? Like when there's like too many people sometimes doing something, it gets really confusing and conflicts happen. But it seems to be kind of a middle ground with like group size. It's kind of made me rethink my being home, my long-term options, if
I want to do everything myself.
Yeah. So in, like a shit hit the fan situation, I might not be that quick to just like, I'm going to bug out on my own. Bye, everybody. See you later. Mm-hmm. Good luck. I am thinking a little bit more about kind of that inner circle, who can, I partner up with and combine resources with and skills, but not too big of a group. Like, I don't think I would ever want to go to one of these big compounds that people are getting together with. It's like 50, 100 people all going in and playing. Like, that's too much. That's like a city.
Yeah.
It needs government or something. Like, that's too much. But, maybe a handful of, 5 to 10 like neighbors and friends, that I think would be ideal, just kind of based on the interactions that I had over this.
See, and it's funny, as a personal group, I've always written you off. And I don't mean that as like I've written you off and like I don't like that Alana chick. I've written you off because it's always been, zombie apocalypse happens. Alana pop smoke and be gone, so we don't have to really worry about her. I guess if she needed something, well, she's not going to call us anyway, so whatever. But that's interesting that your mentality of that's changed.
Yeah, I'm
because I like to keep a mental, because I am a people, I mean, that's a large part of my job is understanding, my day job anyway, is understanding people and how they tick.
Right.
And so, in breaking people down into categories and their reaction. So, as a just force of habit, when I meet people and become friends with people, I always immediately start ticking down, like, okay, how would this person react in this situation? And you were always pegged as, she'll be gone. I guess we don't even have to worry about how she fits into things. She's got her own shit. She'll be gone.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still that part of me too. I mean, I don't want to be necessarily dependent on other people.
No,
but the moral of the after school special is I learned the value of teamwork and how it can be beneficial in a stressful and difficult situation. Although I was with like-minded people with similar skills, similar goals. So I think if it was just a group of like random people, it might be completely different. But
right.
Everyone was on a pretty even keel as far as like your abilities and your knowledge and things. So no one was really carrying anybody else.
Oh, that's good, because I do remember, as we were talking about a second ago, Bennu and Russell, and then the blonde chick, who everybody basically had to carry her.
Yeah.
And so y'all didn't, not to give away the show, but y'all didn't end up with that person. They didn't stick y'all with one of those this time? Or do we have to stay away from that and save it for a later episode?
I think I might be kind of going into treacherous territory if I really answer that question. I might get some nasty phone calls and emails.
Well, it's your email and phone calls. I don't care.
But I will say, although everyone has their own unique skills and their own style, there was some inconsistency. I will say everything works out as it should.
Okay. All right.
I can say that. In a situation you don't have the skills, it will become apparent eventually.
I would imagine it becomes apparent pretty quickly. I mean, I guess it depends on how lacking your skills
are. It can become apparent and other people take notice, but when it comes down to surviving, even if people are trying to help other people along, that only goes so far. Like unless somebody is like taking care of like their child, you can't really take care of other like able-bodied adults. Like everyone has their limits,
right? And
no one is going to take care of somebody else completely unless it's like your blood kin or something. I'm sure.
And even then, there's a point at which you're like, well, I'm sure you'll taste good.
Yeah, so and in this case, nature kind of worked itself out.
So, at what point did you start thinking about eating other participants or crew members?
Pretty quickly, actually. Yeah. And
so was that out of hunger or irritation?
Mostly irritation. Just
okay.
You want a little peace and quiet.
Yeah. Like, if I could just eat you'd shut the hell up now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the hunger was really not that bad. There were resources to be had. You just had to work for them, which, I mean, that was the whole point of being out there. But yeah, there were some people that probably would have been really tasty and made for some really quiet evenings.
There's always that guy or that girl in every group. So now, to shift gears, I have a strange question, and I think it's one we've talked about before. And if this gets too personal, obviously you don't have to answer it. There was a big difference this time. You were going for a much longer time. So how did you handle how do I put this, lady business?
Well, I mean, half the people out there were ladies having lady business. So, I mean, it was, I guess, an issue. It was kind of weird because when your body goes under that sort of stress, so many things shut down. So things don't really tick as they would in a situation where you're getting your full nutrition and things like that. That is one thing that was not completely just primitive and barbaric. Like if a girl did start to menstruate or anything out there, we did have the option to call the medic and get a tampon or something.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, that's just humiliating to have to be in that kind of situation, going through like your normal cycles and stuff. I mean, you don't want cameras on you and all that's going on.
Yeah.
So we did have that little bit of luxury. I was really grateful for that. And as was like everybody else out there, you had that little bit of like leeway and just human dignity. It really wasn't an issue. But it was really strange being around, all these other females. What they say, like nature takes over, everyone kind of like syncs up and all of that.
Y'all are weird that way.
It was really strange. Like I've never had any sisters. You know, even in college, I had a female roommate that was like never there. So, I mean, I hear about people syncing up in college and stuff. I mean, I didn't experience that because, you know, my roommate and I had lived totally different lives and stuff like that. So I had never really experienced that. I thought a lot of it was just talk and like, oh, that's crazy. Like hippie feminists, hippie, like magic, witchcraft. I don't know. But it actually does
I'm not
happen.
buying your menstruating hippie magic, lady.
Like, it was just so weird. Like, I know it's a thing that actually happens, but because I'd never experienced it, I was like, well, I guess it's just some weird people that happens to. But no, it really happens. It was bizarre.
So, and I guess I had heard, especially under a lot of stress and under a lot of issues of weight loss and malnutrition, that women's menstrual cycles tend to shut down.
Yeah, it pretty much just shuts down after a while.
Okay, that's interesting. To probably half of our listeners, the other half are going, la, 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 la.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is one of those things, and it comes up for women. You know, I always try to address that whenever I can, because it is a strange topic, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it other than, yeah, I just went out and went to Sam's Club, like Glenn Tate was talking about, and bought a pallet of tampons. Which, I guess, coincidentally, are you, has that become a change in your preps now?
That was something that was always there, I guess. I mean, because, well, for one, they're great because you can do multiple things with them, like just from a survival standpoint, but that didn't really change. I mean, I've been an adult female for several years now,
Well, yeah.
arguably.
Yeah.
But, I mean, every month, you know, for the past 20 years or whatever, it's been something to deal with. So, I mean, it was never like, oh, should I prep or should I not prep? I mean,
well, I mean, it's like, and I asked because at some point everyone gets bitten with the toilet paper bug and goes, oh my God, I'm going to be without toilet paper after the zombie apocalypse.
Toilet paper's not that bad. Like, I would rather have like feminine hygiene products than toilet paper.
Really?
Yeah.
Elaborate, madam. I mean, not too much, but please elaborate.
Being in the situation where you do have like both needs, toilet paper is a lot easier to improvise than like feminine stuff.
Such as tree bark, a random lizard. What are we talking here?
Kind of cliche, but like a nice soft leaf
can
do wonders.
Okay.
And like rocks. Just not rough rocks, but rocks. Don't get like a chunk of concrete with like rebar in it or anything.
Okay. Ow.
But just, you know, like a river rock or something that's got a little wear on it, a smooth side.
Okay.
It works great.
There we go.
And you can reuse it.
Nugget of wisdom. No pun intended. So river rocks.
Yeah, find yourself a nice smooth rock. You can like clean it off and reuse the thing. You really don't need toilet paper.
That was going to be my next question. Do you hang on to this rock or do you chuck this rock and get a fresh one every time?
If it's a really prime rock, it's a prize.
This rock
you keep
feels
it with you
great on my bum.
You keep it clean. You keep it like in a place of honor on the mantle. You know, like you don't let go of a good rock.
If I ever come to visit your house and you have rocks on the mantle, just remind me not to touch them and say, oh, what is this rock? Oh, that is my bum rock, or whatever strange name we're going to give her. Wow, that went in a weird direction, which I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, so like I've kind of slowed down on the toilet paper.
Have you really?
Yeah.
And stocked up on river rocks, apparently.
Yeah.
They look nice in the garden, too.
But yeah, you'd be surprised.
I'm not sure where to go with this show now. I am floored. I would have never thought river rocks. Yeah. So.
Sorry.
No, and I wanted to know. It totally threw me off, though. I just wasn't expecting that. Which I guess brings us, and actually that does segue into the next thing, which is, I guess, what modern convenience did you miss most out there? I guess, let me ask this. What modern convenience did you miss the most the first time? Because I don't think we ever really talked about that. And then, you know, versus maybe if there was something different this time for you.
The first time, I guess what I missed really was like a radio or something. Just having other sounds and like music and
do you think that was a desire for human connection since last time you were alone for a while?
Yeah, that might have been. Because when you're just sitting there by yourself at night and all you can hear is mosquitoes buzzing in your ear and things like that, you really want to hear something else just to distract you for a minute.
Yeah.
And I found myself like singing to myself a lot and stuff like that just to hear something. So
was that the same this time?
With multiple people, it really wasn't as much of a big deal because, I mean, we would all talk to each other and we had our like sing-along nights and things like that. But entertainment, just in general, is an issue. So I don't know if that would be considered a modern convenience, like a TV or
Sure. I mean, and it is something that we
bring
actually
some
do.
Netflix out to the bush with you. I don't know,
That
but
would be pretty funny.
I mean, you even with a large group of people around a campfire, you're thinking, oh, that's great, it's fun. But after 40 days of that, you run out of I Spy games and knock knock jokes and things like that. Like you really get strapped for things to keep your mind occupied. You have to just cut loose and act silly and tell jokes and stuff like that every once in a while. It can't be just 24/7 survive. You have to have a little bit of levity just to keep your sanity. And even then you run out of stuff to talk about. Mm-hmm. You run out of games. Like a deck of cards would have been so much fun.
See, and it's funny because when people often ask me about like bags or other stuff, I always say, honestly, after going through so many hurricanes throughout my life, oddly, entertainment becomes really, really important. People are like, well, what do you put in there? And when I say a deck of cards, they often look at me funny. I'm like, no, seriously, you'll be bored out of your flaming mind.
That is, a deck of cards, a couple of books, maybe like a notepad and a pen just so you can like doodle or whatever, just something to occupy your mind.
No, did y'all end up making up stupid games?
We made up
like little kids?
Really stupid games. We were exactly like little kids out there, trying to think of jokes to tell each other and trying to make up songs and started pulling pranks on each other. Just like dumb stuff that...
I changed out your river rock for rebarred concrete.
Yeah. Like, it's a turtle. It's running away now. But yeah, I didn't realize how important that would be after, a couple of weeks.
Interesting. So is that going to show up somewhere in an episode where somebody wipes their butt on a turtle and y'all played that kind of prank on them?
Actually, not really that, but there were some really interesting things that went on for the sake of entertainment and personal amusement. Like you start experimenting with things out there. Well, for example, I'm pretty sure this is going to show up. I don't know how it could not show up. But there was a point where it was just me and another girl for a while. She and I for a good couple of weeks. And we got along great. Everything was fine. We couldn't really take up our time by like bickering and fighting because we got along too well. So we started experimenting with, let's just say, like wild beauty products. And we learned that there are certain saps and plant resins that make a pretty decent wax.
Okay.
So just because we had nothing better to do one night, like we had water, we were fed, fire was raging, a beautiful night, and we were just sitting there bored. Like we are out of things to talk about. So we started like waxing eyebrows and
other various body parts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They went to town and it was hilarious, but it actually worked. But it ended up being a learning experience. I was like, wow, you can actually, make whatever you need out here, as silly as it might be. Like we don't even have a mirror out there, but we're like waxing eyebrows and stuff. We've lost, 15 pounds and covered in dirt and bug bites and look like absolute hell. Mm-hmm. But we're going to wax our eyebrows. Just for fun, just for that little bit of morale boost. Mm-hmm. Just because, I did something silly and it worked, and okay, now we can go to sleep.
Perhaps that goes back to what you were talking about a second ago, out of boredom. I mean, I would imagine there was a lot of stuff you ended up doing out of just sheer boredom.
Sheer boredom. Like, just true bare bones survival is really tedious and really, really boring. I mean, you see on TV all these, like, I'm going to go kill this buffalo and wrestle an alligator and do all this crazy stuff. No, that's not what it's about. You're not out there every day doing that stuff. Like if something like that happens at one point, great. But that's not what it's all about. You're going to have like long stretches of just nothing between any kind of action.
I guess that begs the question, how different is the experience you go through versus what television watchers end up seeing?
And basically what you're seeing on TV is the Cliff Notes, the actual experience, because most of it is not exciting at all.
Yeah.
It's, looking for the perfect river rock or just sitting there literally watching water boil, things like that. And big chunks of just laying around and resting. Because it was, in the 120s most days where we were filming. And, in the middle of the day, when it's out there sweltering like that, you're not going to be out running around and collecting firewood and pulling trees down and all this stuff when it's that hot. Mm-hmm. And when water and electrolytes are at a premium.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to waste that. So you're just going to like lay around. You're going to nap in the shade and wait till it gets cooler and then start, bust and hump on work you need to get done. So probably 90% of a survival situation like that, primitively, is just a lot of just chilling, or like that's your basket weaving time, which is not exciting to watch. But there were a whole lot of baskets out there by the time the 40 days was done. There were like baskets to hold other baskets by that time.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
So a lot of downtime.
Were there any bushcraft skills that you saw anybody kind of whip out that you were like, holy crap, I want to learn how to do that?
There wasn't anything really unusual that I hadn't seen, but I saw a lot of different styles. So, even baskets as an example. I saw so many different kinds of baskets.
Back to the baskets.
I mean, that was like everybody's go-to. Like, I'm bored, I'm going to make a basket. Just seeing everyone's different technique and different styles, kind of interesting. One thing I thought was really neat, this one girl that was out there, I don't know if this is going to be on the show or not, but I guess it doesn't give anything away. Like, a dead squirrel was found.
Okay.
Just on the ground, dead. And there was much debate and much discussion over whether this thing should be eaten. Because does it have rabies? Does it have a disease? What killed it? And whatever. And long story short, the squirrel was consumed. Rabies be damned. I'm hungry. We're going to eat the squirrel. The girl skinned the squirrel and just without any, not using the brain, because the squirrel really didn't have a brain, in the condition it was found, was able to like tan the hide and stretch it out, made a little hoop out of a branch for it. And she busted out in like 5 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Like completely cleaned the skin, stretched it out, and after a couple of days, it was like a perfectly good little hide ready to go, ready to be used for whatever. She ended up not using it for anything. I mean, it's a squirrel. I mean, it's like...
Could have had a squirrel puppet show.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all were pretty bored.
One little tiny loincloth, but it was something to do. It was something to look at. We would all like pet the squirrel every day. It was like a little mascot, stretched out with no head, and yeah, it was adorable. But like, I had never really done that. Like, I've skinned animals, but I usually, just the hide is trash after that. Like, I don't really reuse the hides. Or like give it to somebody that wants to tan it, or like make a raccoon hat out of it or something. But it was something I never really personally did. I have tanned some snake skins before, but never a squirrel. And just watching her do that was pretty cool. So that was a little kind of a learning moment for me. I was like, after watching you do that, I just thought that was kind of neat. It was a little skill that I hadn't really messed with much.
I think that's the hard part, is there are so many interesting skills.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we live in a modern society, so you end up, and we've got work and bills and everything else, so you end up with only so much time to acquire so many skills in a day. So there's always that laundry list of stuff where it's like, one day I'd like to learn that. Did y'all end up having an issue with like clicks forming and stuff? Since, I mean, I guess y'all were at the point where you were at 12, so it's a big enough number that you could start to get into that as in...
Yeah, I think that's just inevitable. It's human nature to kind of gravitate towards people that you feel connected with or you have something in common with. And it's just going to happen. If you get in a group bigger than even like, if you have a group of 3 people, there's always going to be that kind of odd man out, no matter what. Even if it's, like 3 best friends, there's always going to be a conversation going with 2 of them while one kind of like waits to join in. So cliques and things like that, even while unintentional, they are inevitable. Yeah. And it was pretty obvious pretty quick who was clicking up. And even if you don't want to do that, you just can't help it. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, some people you drive better with than others.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Did it create an issue at all?
I don't really think that kind of clicking up created an issue. I think it was more of a symptom of issues that were already there.
Such as?
Just, there was maybe some abrasive personalities. That
in preparedness? No.
Yeah.
Survival? No. Bushcrafters? No.
Yeah. So like the people that were a little more abrasive and a little more, I guess, just unwilling to work with others. It's almost like they would push people away and they had no choice but to then just kind of click up.
Did you find that the exception or the rule? Because this actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you've kind of had the epiphany of, well, maybe I shouldn't run off by myself.
Yeah.
If the zombies come, maybe I should kind of have a little group together.
But I would say be very selective with that group. Know your group before you just get out there.
I think the other part of that is understanding that, I mean, that is kind of a common trait within the survival, preparedness, bushcraft, however you want to label yourself or whichever group you click with and cotton to, however you come at it, we tend to be individualistic and we tend to be pretty hard-headed and we tend to be pretty opinionated about things. Even if there's like 10 different ways to skin a squirrel, there's always that one guy or two guys that are willing to sit around and fight about the best way to skin a squirrel when it's like, dude, it's a squirrel. It's not that serious. Did you find that to be the rule or the exception, that it was a lot of strong personalities kind of rubbing up against each other? Not unlike the smooth river rock.
Yeah. Wait, what?
See, the river rocks are distracting.
Abbreviated.
No, so I can be a little long-winded sometimes.
Like,
people are like, I dozed off while you were speaking, Aaron. What the hell did you just say? No, I mean, as far
I don't want to
as
start going and like answering like the question that wasn't asked. See, I was waiting for like a part B or something.
I have a question in 43 subparts.
I think it's pretty much going to be the rule. There will be someone in a group. You get more than a few people together. There's going to be somebody that either you don't like or doesn't like you. Just even if they're a totally just awesome person, there will be differences of opinion, and that could potentially create animosity anywhere. It's just keeping that presence of mind to look at things for what they are. Like, okay, this is just a disagreement of styles or a disagreement of opinion. We don't have to fight about this. It's being able to step back and look at things objectively. And the people that can't do that are the ones that end up causing problems, getting exiled, or leaving or whatever. It's about just recognizing that versus taking things personally or attacking people personally. But at the same time, you don't want to bend over so much that you let like some idiot run a good thing into the ground just for the sake of not causing trouble. I mean, so there's a delicate balance there.
Social skills.
Yeah. But there's always going to be something. Even in a family situation, there's always going to be tension at some point. I think if even people that have so much in common and it's butterflies and unicorns and rainbows and just happy all the time, if people are communicating and being honest, there will be friction. But that just leads to problem solving. I mean, friction isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just how you handle it.
Going back to the first challenge, there was a few people. I mean, I'm not trying to wind you up. I'm trying to wind you up a little bit. There was a few people that kind of felt like you had too easy of a time on your first island challenge. What would you say to those people?
I would say,
did it look easier than it was, or
easy? I lived.
Well, yeah, maybe they wanted to see you, bloody and bruised.
Sorry that I'm not like missing a limb.
No,
or
I mean,
something, but
do you feel like you got a pretty easy challenge, or was it, hey, the editing kind of sugarcoated the situation you were in?
Well, I will say the situation was not easy, but I will say the editing does paint a slightly different picture of how it was. Like, it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. However, I was in a very resourceful area. I think anytime you're on an ocean, you're pretty much golden. As long as you're not squeamish. There's food everywhere in the water. Just if you don't mind eating something that looks like one of your own like body organs, then you're gonna be okay. Because everything in the ocean is like ugly and gross and nasty, but you'll live,
right?
And I think that's one of the things maybe people saw, because I was like always eating something. I mean, there were clips of me talking about something. Oh, it's hot, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to make a shelter, but I'm like chewing on something the whole time. Like, I was constantly eating. So maybe that's something that gave people the impression that it was easy.
Well, I think the other thing too is it looked like a vacation spot.
Yeah, I mean, the spot was gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, but really that was the only good thing I can say about it.
So, Naked and Afraid calls you tomorrow and says, "Hey, we got another challenge for you. Are you going to do it, or are you done with these shenanigans?"
You know what? After my first one, the 21 days, I said I was done. But then again, here I just came back from a 40-day thing. So I really don't know. Right after I came back from the 40 days, I'm like, I'm never going to do 40 days again. Like, maybe 21. Because when day 21 came and went out there, it was like nothing. It's like, oh, already? 21 days? Psh, all right. So I would maybe do something like that again. But 40 days? Man, I don't know. And not just even from the misery aspect. Like, wow, it's going to be a lot of work for 40 days. It's just leaving your life for 40 days. That was the hard part.
Yeah, I would
And, like,
imagine
not
that would
knowing
be
what I was
really
coming home
difficult.
to.
Yeah.
Like, I missed the entire Houston rodeo.
Oh,
The whole rodeo.
Not that they don't
And
allow.
St. Patty's Day.
Well, the St. Patty's Day I could see. But anyway, no, I mean, that's interesting, not to get off on that tangent, but that's interesting as far as the 40 days and like, what am I coming home to? And
yeah, that was really...
Because everyone else's life went on without you and a lot of shit's changed.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that coming back into society after 21 days versus 40 days?
It was a huge difference. And I came back kind of a little shaken up after 21 days, but I adjusted back to life pretty quickly. 40 days, though, it was really different. I mean, you think 40 days, like, it's not that long. It's only 6 weeks. But when you're in that situation 24 hours a day, they completely removed from everything at home, it messes with you. And
how so?
I hate to call it PTSD because I feel like that discounts, actual PTSD.
Right.
Like people have like been in combat and seen death and destruction and this sort of thing. But it seems like a very similar feeling. And there were combat vets out there in the 40 days that had even remarked, like, I've been in combat, I've been shot at, and this is messing me up.
Wow. See, now that's something I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah. So
I mean,
only because of talking to them, I can kind of call it PTSD a little bit. Otherwise, I would have no idea what that's like.
Right.
But when we all got out, we were all kind of a support group for each other. Like, nobody wanted to leave the house. Everybody was very, like, you were a little shell-shocked.
That's interesting, and I don't think that's something that I necessarily expected as far as hearing about your experience after the fact. So what is it, just like a sense of apprehension? Is it nervousness? Is it, I mean, what are we talking about here?
I don't
Anxiety?
know. It was very much an anxiety-based kind of feeling. Like, I came home and, my boyfriend picks me up at the airport, and instead of like going and hugging him, saying, "Oh, I missed you," I'm like, "Why are you driving my car? Why aren't you driving your own car?" It was like really weird stuff. I was like really snappy, like everybody. And I didn't want to talk about anything. And, it's talking like some of my best friends. They're like, "Oh, well, how was it? Like, tell me about it." I'm like, "I don't even want to talk about it. Like, I can't even explain it." Like, it was great and it sucked. And I really don't even remember what happened. Like, it was just so weird. And after talking to the other people that were out there, because we all kept in touch. I mean, an experience like that bonds you. Everyone was pretty much experiencing the same thing. People would like wake up in the middle of the night and start roaming around the house looking for firewood before they realized that they were home.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like that. Because that was a constant thing, like every night. Like, whoever wakes up goes and throws a little bit more wood on the fires to keep it going. And like nobody was sleeping more than a couple hours at a time. And it was just really just a weird, just out of sorts kind of feeling. And I was very anxious and did not want to talk to anybody, did not want to see anybody. I just wanted to be in my house and eat peanut butter like all day.
Peanut butter.
Yeah. Oh my God, my sweet tooth was kicking so bad when it came out of there. Like, all I wanted was peanut butter. I was like throwing M&Ms in the peanut butter and just like eating those by the handful. It was ridiculous, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you make yourself good and sick, young lady?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I basically was packed with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like up to my throat, like immediately as soon as I could start eating. And yeah, I was pretty sick and felt like I'd eaten a giant rock for probably the first week. But it was like beyond being uncomfortably full. Like, it literally was painful, the amount of food I was eating. And I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
your body
you
is
lost
just
a
like,
lot
keep
of weight.
eating. Yeah. I lost quite a bit. I didn't lose as much as there's some people out there, but I didn't have as much to lose.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have a lot to start with to begin with. So, I mean, you're a fairly thin woman. So.
Yeah, I tried to put on more weight going out there. I put on maybe like 5 pounds. It took me a month. and I drop weight really easily. So I was probably down to my like base kind of survival weight within the first 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So how long did it take you to get over your post-survival PTSD, whatever we want to call this?
I still think about it a lot, but I'm just really now starting to kind of get back into where, like, okay, I want to leave the house today. Like, I want to go to the grocery store and be around people and like buy food that I don't have to catch. And like, it just took a really long time. And
long time, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
Probably a good couple of months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really unexpected. Like, I was not ready for that part. I thought there'd be maybe a few days of kind of getting back to normal like it was with the 21-day thing, but this was a totally different experience.
Do you think it was the time, or was there something different about this experience?
I think it was a little both. Definitely the time, because you have more time to get into kind of that mindset, like where you're not going home. Like, this is my home. Like it's more permanent, because it seems like time never ends. It seems like you're never going to get out of there. Like when day 30 rolls around, you're just like, God, another 10 days. This is just, I'm going to be here forever. You don't even really think about being home. And it was just so much more taxing mentally having extra people. Like, sure, it's a break because you can talk to people and play games and vent, but you still have to manage all those personalities. And you still have to just maintain that relationship or those relationships. And you don't really realize it at the time, but that is an additional stress just to keep that balance. And I think just all the additional stress plus the length of time made just a longer recovery time.
Now, you had mentioned in just our personal conversations, you had mentioned that there was something weird that happened around 30 days. As far as just there was something weird mentally that clicked with everyone around 30-day mark. What was that all about?
It was something about the 30 days where you're just like, you really are just done. Like, you just want to go home. You're not any more hungry or thirsty. Like, when you survive past 21 days, if you have managed to survive, keep yourself alive and in one piece and fairly physically healthy at 30 days, I think at that point you can keep going and going and going and going. Physically, you've hit that moment where it could be indefinite. But mentally, there's something about right at about 30 days that you're done. Like, you're over it. You're so over it. Like, everything sucks. You hate everybody. And you just want to go.
So, but this wasn't just the cast.
Right. Yeah. Not just the cast. Like, of course, we were all on the same page. Like, we were all just like, it's like you wake up overnight and things are different. It's just a different energy, a different air. And even the crew that was coming in every morning, they were over it right about day 30.
So were they camping nearby, or were they actually going back to
They were getting in trucks and commuting, I guess, back to a hotel. Like, they got to go to a hotel and, cater dinners and stuff every night.
So, but that's interesting that even the crew after 30 days, because I would have thought it would have just been the cast actually in their survival situation.
To see how testy the crew was getting right about that 30-day mark. And they just wanted to go home too.
30 days is a long time to be away from home.
It really is. And I don't know if that's something ingrained in humans, like there's something with 30 days, or if we're just so used to with our calendar and everything, just everything is like in a 30-day cycle. I don't know. It's like a chicken or the egg kind of thing. Like, yeah, it was just something about it. Like, after 30 days, it's like, screw this. And that's when all the thoughts of like, I am never doing this again were coming in, and we were all like, yeah, screw this. This sucks. We're all, never going to do it again. But then come day 42, after a good meal and a good night's sleep, you're like, maybe I'll do it again. I don't know. You forget about all the bad stuff. But.
Yeah, the human memory is pretty funny that way, because I do remember speaking to you pretty soon after you got back, and you were like, hell no, I'm never doing that again. And so that's why I was like, well, maybe your mind's changed. I don't know. So, well, that's interesting. So beyond the show, what are you doing with yourself, lady?
I am in a process of downsizing right now. It was kind of weird because my first experience being so kind of just jarring and new and giving me so much time just to think and reflect. I came home with like a newfound motivation to like, I'm going to finish my degree and do all this like amazing stuff. And I was kind of on track with that, changing course career-wise and all this sort of thing, really getting with it.
Yeah, you were making a lot of personal change, a lot of big personal changes.
Yeah, and I was. And it's weird because I went and did this experience again, and it has basically 180'd my entire plan. It's the strangest thing because it was enough time to, all you're doing out there is thinking. You have so much time just to think. And you're away from home, you're separated from your day-to-day life. And it really gives you that chance that not a lot of people have to really step back and look at their entire life, like objectively, like to be fully removed from it, because you're so distracted by the day-to-day when you're in it that it's hard to see it clearly sometimes. Like, you're like, oh, I need to pay bills today, or I need to go get dog food and need to get my oil changed and whatever. And when you don't have any of that to actually distract you, you see things really, really clearly.
Now, you said it did a 180 this time, though.
Yeah, I did a 180 this time because last time I was very fired up to do all these like great career changes and all this sort of thing. And coming back this time, having so much time to reflect, I really shifted gears. I not only kind of slowed down on, finishing my degree, which I still want the knowledge. I still want to finish classes, but I'm not going to change careers at this point. Like, I've decided, like, that's not the path I want to take, but I don't want to.
You don't want to professionally go do disaster management.
I don't want to do it professionally at this point. And I've just had the realization that just people work way too much and are too distracted by a bunch of bullshit that doesn't matter. I know it sounds cliche. It sounds like Fight Club or something, but it is.
So what you're saying is we're going to start
right.
the ITRH Fight Club? Is that what we got going on here? Shall we start
First
just calling
rule,
you?
don't talk about it.
I guess that makes you Tyler Durden. So
maybe, but but no, I want to. I'm like in the process of just like getting out of any kind of debt, which I've done now. I got out of debt. I want to like finish remodeling my house so I can maybe like rent it. I want to just travel and work as little as possible, not to where I have to like depend on anybody else, but I'm not trying to, I don't want to be a millionaire. I just want to have what I need to basically allow myself more freedom. Like, I don't want to work to work. I want to work to just like fund living.
Yeah.
And I want to travel. I want to see places I've never seen and visit people that I don't really get to see. I mean, because, you can text friends and things like that, and it's all fine and good. But I've learned that relationships, actually face-to-face,
totally different,
is so much more important.
Yes.
And I would love to just like drive all over the country and see people I care about that I don't get to talk to enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, texting and Facebook, and I mean, not that this hasn't been said a million times, but these things have kind of, I don't want to say ruined relationships, but really made a lot of relationships a lot more surface.
Yeah.
Because this very false sense of connection. Like, sure, I can see what's going on in your Facebook feed, and I can read your memes, but I do, in a lot of ways, I think it gives us a false sense of connection versus, before, there's people that listen to the show that don't remember a time before the internet, but I mean, you and I are of that age that, we remember, when there were no cell phones and there were no pagers. I know you're a little bit younger than I am, but I mean, I certainly remember that time, and it was, you wanted to...
Yeah, I remember payphones.
Yeah, I mean, there were payphones, real payphones, and if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to really pick up the phone and talk to them.
Yeah.
And you had to try to get a hold of them. It became this, like, fishing expedition, and then answering machines came, and then you could leave a message, and they would actually get back in touch with you. And
yeah, or if you wanted to call somebody, you don't know who was going to answer the phone.
Right.
You have to, like, ask for their wife or whoever you're trying to talk to instead of just, like, directly calling a single person.
So and I think that's a perspective that a lot of people take away from that kind of, when they do get perspective on their lives like that. Like some people, I think it's pretty rare that some people really do get to do what they absolutely love. And so for them, it's, their working is their passion and their love. Like a lot of what I do is I absolutely love it. But at the same time, that sense of freedom. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're doing something you love, I think that's a rarity.
Oh, it definitely is.
I mean, because most people, like with the 9 to 5 or the whatever, it's a rat race. It's like they hate their job, they dread going to work. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, and I love the job I have, but I just want to experience more in general. The society being what it is, I will never probably not be able to work in some capacity. Things being how they are, you have to work, but you have a choice of letting it control you or not. And that's one of the things I was able to really reflect on. I want to work and, have a savings. Hopefully banks will stick around for a while, but
we'll see how that pans out.
There's always emergencies.
Right.
I am a prepper, so I'm always kind of like looking for that rainy day. I want to have, my like savings and all this sort of thing, but I'm not chasing the consumables now. Like, oh, I don't want that Ferrari. I don't want that swimming pool. I, don't need like this, like the newest iPhone and like the gold watch, whatever. Keep it simple and just live.
So I think that goes back to what you were saying originally, which was just a sense of downsizing your life.
Yeah,
because I think that's something that people often think about acquiring more, and not that I don't too. I mean, I'm definitely an ambitious person, but I enjoy the chase. But I think for a lot of people, they get consumed by the chase and don't think about the fact that, they could actually downsize their lives and stop chasing crap they don't need maybe live a little bit of a happier life.
Yeah, like it definitely, the less I find, like the closer to simplifying that I get, like the less I have, the happier I am. Like I feel relieved almost. Like,
Interesting.
It's gone.
Well, wow, this has turned into a much deeper show than I was expecting today, but I think it went into an interesting space. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think if preparedness isn't also about examining your life and working for ways to make your life better, then I think a lot of people kind of miss the point of preparedness, because it is about insulating your life and making your life better.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that means you need to be more aggressive with financial resources, and sometimes that means you need to be less aggressive with financial resources and more aggressive with experiencing life.
Yeah, before it gets like too shitty to go out there and do it.
Right? Zombies any day now. Or Jade Helm zombies. That's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. All right. And with that, we'll sign off, and hopefully next time we have you on, I will, speak to you well ahead of time and not go, oh yeah, sure, we talked about it, we're on to. We'll see about getting you on again this season, and maybe share some of the stuff with us that you can't share with us today about shenanigans and other things that and maybe
I'll shenanigans.
Maybe I'll trick you into talking some shit about some other people or something fun. All right, lady. Well, thank you again for being on today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Links to connect with Alana on Twitter and Facebook will be in today's show notes, located at intherrabbithole.com/E133. And as always, you can also ask questions and comment on the episode there too. 2 more quick announcements before we close out the show today. ITRH is returning to a once-a-week schedule for the foreseeable future. Next week, we'll be joined by Glenn Tate, author of the 299 Days book series. And we've got more really great interviews lined up for y'all that, let's just say, they're going to be pretty freaking awesome. And you may have noticed the format of the show has changed a little bit, and we've added some new music. Plus, a few additions to the show are on their way. So yes, we are back for Season 5. Microphones blazing. Again, support the ITRH mission by becoming a member of the Roving Horde Armada. For as little as $2.50 a month, members help keep the show going. Visit ITRH.net for more details and member benefits today. From the Lone Star State, till next time, stay safe and sound.